10-year visas for the right kind of foreigner who can play a part in Thailand's economic future. Plan from Thailand's Energy Minister and Deputy Prime Minister at the Center for Economic Situation Administration, CESA, highlights the need to attract foreigners with capital, spending power and expertise to come and live in Thailand as the World Bank urges the government to deploy the country's latest database-driven platforms used to distribute economic supports during the COVID-19 crisis as the basis to kickstart a more ambitious social welfare program targeted at those most in need in Thailand. It suggested such a policy would help fight inequality in the country and boost consumption in the domestic economy. The Center for Economic Situation Administration, CESA, is pressing ahead with plans agreed by the cabinet in June to offer a long-term 10-year visa to elite foreigners who can bring both investment and valuable economic expertise to assist in the development of the Thai economy. The new visas will also come with extended property ownership rights. It comes as the World Bank has called on the government to redeploy support infrastructure used during the COVID-19 crisis towards a more ambitious social security support plan for the least well-off in Thailand. Deputy Prime Minister Supathanapong Punmeechau touts new 10-year visas for foreigners with money to invest or spend in Thailand as well as those who bring intellectual expertise and value to the Thai economy. He disclosed that the government was working on a plan to boost infrastructure supports to firms involved in the production of electric vehicles, EV, in the kingdom. Deputy Prime Minister Supathanapong Punmeechau has announced a plan, agreed by the cabinet in principle on June 4 last, to allow wealthy and skilled foreigners access to long-term visas to live in Thailand for up to 10 years depending on their background, skill set, income and ability to invest in the kingdom. Economic plan to put the smile back in Thailand's appeal to Western foreigners to live and work. This project was reported in March and later in April. It is understood to be the brainchild of former JP Morgan boss in Thailand Mr. Chayotthad Kritakon. 7% rise in GDP alone on the expenses of 1 million well-heeled foreigners living in Thailand. In March, Mr. Chayotthad highlighted the potential economic growth for Thailand if 1 million visitors could be attracted to live in the kingdom. He predicted a 7% rise in GDP alone based on their day-to-day living expenses in the country. This, he explained, was quite apart from the economic contribution that they could bring in terms of investment and value-added skills needed to power the Thai economy of the future. 4 separate groups targeted by the new plan to attract the kind of people to come and live in Thailand. On Thursday, Minister Supathanapong gave more details on the proposed scheme and explained that 4 separate groups would be targeted by the new initiative. These were wealthy, high-net-worth individuals, wealthy or high-earning professionals, wealthy retirees and executives or people with highly developed skill sets who had the potential to offer industry and universities in Thailand a competitive advantage as it seeks to move towards becoming an advanced economy. First target group, wealthy people with a net worth over $1 million willing to invest $500,000 in Thailand. The criteria for the first group is that each qualifying person must be able to demonstrate $1 million in assets. They must also demonstrate an income over the last 2 years of $80,000 and be willing to invest $500,000 in Thailand either through property or government bonds. A qualifying candidate in the second group would need to have obtained a master's degree or equivalent or have intellectual property rights or the equivalent in terms of research experience while also having an income of at least $40,000 per annum. Wealthy retirees willing to invest $250,000. For wealthy retirees seeking a long-term visa, the requirements are that the applying person must be over 50 years of age, have an income of at least $40,000 a year and be in a position to invest $250,000 in Thailand whether in property or government bonds. The last category of individual would have to be a person with experience in the digital industry and would be required to work for a stock exchange of Thailand, SET. Firm or have already had 3 years of experience working with a similar foreign firm in that area which has a turnover of more than $50 million a year. The fourth category does not have an age requirement. However, it does require that the person concerned works within target industries of significance to the Thai economy or Thai universities or academia. New visas come with extended property rights including the right to own land and real estate. The minister also revealed that the new plan will involve allowing foreigners who hold these long-term visas extended property rights to own land and real estate in the kingdom in addition to the limited rights in respect of condominiums currently afforded under the law in Thailand. He linked this new initiative to bring in new talent and investment into the badly damaged economy with a plan he said would be unveiled in 2022 which would aim to develop the kingdom's position as a hub for electric vehicles. Thailand's bright idea to become an vehicle production center linked with Japanese hybrids. Worldwide, there were 3.2 million electric vehicles sold in 2020, but the number in Thailand was limited to 30,000, leaving a reported 190,000, mostly specialized service vehicles as well as hybrids, on Thai roads last year. Thai Research recently reported that it expects that Thailand will see 1 million vehicles on its roads by 2028, but most of these will be hybrid EVs which are being developed by Japanese car producers based in Thailand. Thai government committed to the industry as a key decarbonization measure to fight climate change. Minister Supathanapong, this week, however, emphasized the government's commitment to the industry as part of Thailand's decarbonization efforts to help the fight against climate change. Infrastructure will be the main attraction, and we will encourage leading players in the supply chain to relocate their production sites to Thailand, he said. He further explained that plans were being worked out to set up more battery production facilities, and the government would be prioritizing infrastructural support for this industry as part of a plan to usher in a post-pandemic recovery. World Bank downgrades Thai growth prospects. The announcement from the Center for Economic Situation Administration, CESA, which is also spearheading efforts to reopen Thailand's foreign tourism industry from mid-October this year, comes as the World Bank downgraded Thailand's growth prospects for 2010 from 3.4% earlier this year to 2.2%. The figure is still in excess of the Bank of Thailand's current estimate of 1.8%, which is based on achieving a recovery in the fourth quarter with the relaunch of the foreign tourism industry. Financial supports for the most vulnerable in the kingdom to create a healthier domestic economy. The World Bank, in its report, urged the Thai government to prioritize the development of a social support system or infrastructure for the less well-off, as it estimated that at least 780,000 Thai people fell back into poverty in 2020 alone when the economy contracted sharply. The World Bank team for Thailand, led by senior economist Birgit Hansel, had some praise for the government in respect of its efforts to bring together a state platform and database profile of the Thai population to assist for the government support programs since last year. Government is in a position to offer more economic supports to the vulnerable, says World Bank. The financial institution also suggested that it had formed the view that the government's fiscal position still left room to assist the poor in the coming months. The bank particularly identified the plight of millions of informal workers whose lives have been disrupted by the stalled foreign tourism industry, as well as the poorest and less well-off who have not had the resources to cope with the economic downturn in a country with scant social welfare supports. Thailand praised for developing strong database platforms to trace and help support the population. While praising Thailand's efforts towards developing database-driven platforms to manage pandemic-specific social supports last year and this year, the bank, through senior economist Francesca Lamina, highlighted this as an opportunity for the kingdom to set up a permanent social support infrastructure that would be a key step towards fighting inequality and improving the domestic economy. This was a theme added to by Kiatipong Aryapusia, who has long studied the Thai economy for the World Bank. He said that such a platform could also be used to improve traceability and execute the vaccine rollout. Support for the less well-off should be a priority as it encourages social mobility and consumption. The World Bank economic team also urged the government to look at the country's chronic debt burden among households and to see if more could be done to reduce it. Thai economy right now is dormant. The report admitted that, right now, the Thai economy was dormant. Mr. Kiatipong saw the reopening of foreign tourism also as a key priority for planners, but urged them to also look at efforts to remove barriers to free trade so that Thailand's export industry continues to benefit from the upturn in the world economy. The bank predicts that 600,000 foreign tourists will enter the country in 2021 as part of the government's ongoing efforts to refloat the foreign tourism industry, even amid the huge surge in virus infections and deaths driven by the Delta wave and its struggling effort to roll out a vaccination campaign.